British Prime Minister Theresa May will make her first visit to Nigeria this week as part of efforts aimed at boosting post-Brexit trade ties. Well, May, who has arrived in Cape Town for the start of a three-day visit to Africa, will meet with President Muhammadu Buhari in Abuja to discuss security issues, especially the threat of Boko Haram in Nigeria, and also meet with victims of modern slavery in Lagos. African Affairs analyst Kayode Ogundamisi now joins us to discuss this issue. Good to have you on the News Hour. So let's start with this. What are your thoughts first, your take on the Prime Minister's visit to Nigeria?
It's about time. Next year, Britain will officially be out of the EU, and this visit is actually more for the home audience in the UK than for people in Nigeria or Africa. It's important that the Prime Minister sends a message to Brexiteers in the UK. The UK is going to develop new partners, international partners outside the EU, and does the visit to South Africa, Kenya, and Nigeria. Nigeria is quite strategic for the United Kingdom. We have a trading relationship that is worth almost 4 billion. I think it's between 3.8 billion pounds to 4 billion pounds. So this is more for the home audience, I would say, than for the benefit of Africa, because Britain is also catching up with, say, China, that is investing a lot in Africa in terms of infrastructural development. So this is Britain sort of re-announcing itself to the world, sort of tying themselves away from the EU.
All right, Kayode, let me ask you this question. Some have said this is a win-win situation for Nigeria and Britain. But perhaps you need to remember what has been going on. There's been a trade deficit between Nigeria and the UK to the tune of about $1 billion, what we had in 2017 report. We also had that in 2015. And you're aware now that the UK has promised to fund some projects that we'll have in Nigeria as long as it has 20% UK government. How does that get a win for Nigeria?
The problem between the UK-Nigeria relationship is when you look at what the UK is getting out of Nigeria is in the oil and gas sector. Shell, Dutch, Royal Dutch, British Dutch Petroleum Company are making a lot of money in the Niger Delta, and not a lot is being reinvested in the environment. Britain is complicit when you talk about the environmental degradation in the Niger Delta. They are as complicit as the Nigerian government. The things that cannot happen in the United Kingdom, say in Scotland, where you have a lot of oil production going on, Britain is allowing it to happen in Nigeria. Where you would ask yourself is pouring money into Nigerian economy is not the problem. It's investing in basic infrastructure, unlike the Chinese model where railways are being built, infrastructures are being built across the country. Britain is pouring money in. Let me give you an example. Humanitarian, in 2014, they spent about £1 million on humanitarian intervention. Now it's about £100 million. But the problem is not that they are spending £100 million. The problem is a greater percentage of that money is actually going into paying staff, buying facilities for staff to go into the northeastern Nigeria. So there's a need for Britain to rethink its strategy in Africa, especially in Nigeria. Where it will become a win-win is when it is invested on the right infrastructure so it can create employment for the people of Nigeria.
Right. Now, still on the economy, Kayode, even though it's going to be a win-win for both countries, but there's been this, belief that it will really gain much for Nigeria. Let's look at how much of a value do you think this trade ties will have for the country in Nigeria than other trade partners like China, US, and European Union. Do you think we have a better chance with the UK?
I would say we don't. Our infrastructures do not even support the basic export we bring to the UK. Let me go into agriculture. Right now, a lot of cocoa farmers and cash products that are meant to go outside Nigeria are sitting out there all over the country because the ports, there are no access to the ports to bring these goods, take them onto the ship to bring them out of Africa. So business people across the world are not going to be waiting for Nigeria to improve on its infrastructure. They will go to, say, Ghana or Cote d'Ivoire or countries that are there for them to take those exports out and bring into those countries. So the first step, like I keep repeating, is improving the infrastructure of the home country, the exporting countries, that is Nigeria. Secondly, when you look at the trade imbalance, Britain in itself is not a manufacturing country per se. They deal on trades. There's a lot of financial trades goes on in London. And not a lot of Nigerian companies or Nigerian businesses are quoted in the London Stock Exchange. So we need to, until Nigeria gets it right in terms of its own infrastructure, its export model. Even if you have this trade relationship with Britain, Britain will always have the upper hand. Let's talk about open sky. Today, British Airways and Virgin Atlantic fly freely into Nigeria. I think they make almost 7 trips a week. And there's no Nigerian airline that's able to come into Britain to take advantage of the open sky bilateral relationship. So we are always going to lose, because even if we sign these documents, we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the means to take advantage of whatever agreement is signed with Britain.
All right, Kayode, you're also aware that the Naira has been pre-approved as one of the currencies that you can trade with if you need to borrow money elsewhere. The British government can stand in for you, as it were. So that takes off the pressure from you in terms of foreign exchange. But the pressure now rests with the CBN. Do you think it's a good thing for Nigeria in terms of exports and import of what we don't want, and trying to concentrate on what is our own content here in Nigeria?
I think it's very important, because when we divest into non-oil production sector, it brings in a lot of the much needed foreign exchange that Nigeria will need as a country to invest on its on Nigeria and in Nigeria, and that is actually one way to look at it, and it speaks well for Nigeria. But the problem we have, and this is, I'll digress a bit, is that no matter the volume of investment from foreign donors or foreign countries, the issue of corruption is still there at a very high level. One of the things that the Prime Minister, I would hope the Prime Minister will emphasize about, is the transfer of illicit funds from Nigeria and most African countries into the UK. A lot of illicit funds are sitting in the UK right now that is difficult for countries where they are taken away from to get them back to those countries. For example, the estate market industry, most of the expensive homes in London are owned by politically exposed persons in Nigeria, and it's not been easy to track those illicit funds and take them back home to Nigeria.
All right, so you expect that the Prime Minister will touch on that and perhaps get those money back home, because we need those money. Many thanks. We'll leave it there. Kayode Ogundamisi for your insight.